Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, perfect. Okay, welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for attending. Um, Adam, I've just thrown you in as a moderator. If anybody else wants to be a moderator, I will add them. Oh, Chris is there too. You're gonna add Chris as a moderator. Perfect. Okay, well, thank you very much for attending, everyone. I'm very excited to kind of go over our roadmap for 2021 with Safecoin, and I think we'll just get right into it. As some of you probably know, we are proposing a swap. So what this means is that uh, you will trade in your coins for a store of value on a different blockchain. So we're working very hard on that. And bottom line is that this blockchain which we're moving to is we're using the code of Solana. Now, we chose this for a number of reasons. Solana, we probably spent about 4 months going through all of the top blockchains in the world, and there was a lot to go over. And basically, Solana had the features that we needed the most. It generally rang in as superior to other blockchains in factors like speed, security, and in many ways privacy as well. Actually, we found that it just had far better security, at the same time performance, than other blockchains. Now, the other thing we really wanted to get into is smart contracts. Now, we talked about a little bit why that was on the last video, but we've determined that really what we need to do to succeed moving forward is get into smart contracts and start developing dApps and other applications. We've known this for a while now, but as we started getting into it, though, we realized that a swap would be required if we wanted to be leaders here. And we also, smart contracts were also a major consideration of what we moved to. And Solana really jumps ahead of the pack on that. Okay, so maybe I'm going to try and actually see if I can start answering questions, because this is an AMA. Todd's moderating some dogs at work. Perfect. Okay. Throw me a question, guys. If you throw me a question, I'll start there. Otherwise, I'll just continue to introduce what we're doing. Okay, so basically, what's going to happen is, oh, here we go. Slick Rick with the loaded question. I'll start with that one. Okay, so now the questions are rolling in. That's great. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. And Ryan's got one too. So Slick, basically, what it does is it puts us vastly ahead of all the other blockchains in performance and speed, scalability. And how it does this, it has two fundamental things. There's a number of things that it does, but it has two fundamental things. One is it's got multi-threading. So when you look at some of the top blockchains in the world right now today, in terms of technology, in terms of advancement, I mean, you start with, for instance, Ethereum. You look at Ethereum, what Ethereum's doing. They're trying to get into sharding. They're trying to get into various things, basically to add scalability, to increase TPS, and also finality. So TPS is transactions per second. It's the number of transactions that a blockchain can do in a second, and it's really, really important for this to exceed, because if we want to scale, if we want to, for instance, replace what Visa or MasterCard is doing, which is really just the tip of the iceberg, you're looking at, around 30 or 40,000 transactions per second. So that's no small amount. Very few blockchains right now actually achieve that. Solana is one of them. And if you look right now today at which blockchain has the most transactions per second, right now it is Solana. Now, if you look at which blockchain can most easily scale out in the future, again, that is Solana. So that is the first point of value. Now, finality is sort of a speed/security question. It's about security. It's also about speed. Finality is, how soon do you know that your transaction is final, that it's not going to get reorged, that it's not going to get rejected, that this transaction is permanent forever on the network? And Solana beats everyone here by a wide margin, in my opinion. They advertise sub-second finality, which means before a second is up, your transaction is final. There are other blockchains, a very, very small number of blockchains, which try to compete with this. We did a lot of work researching them and basically determined that no, it's Solana if you really, really want high speeds. And Solana actually does this with two different consensus mechanisms. So they actually use two separate consensus mechanisms to ensure that they can meet these high speeds. Okay, so Ryan wants to know, how many Rust developers do we have? So Ryan was very adamant in the chat earlier. He was very, very pro Rust. So he wants to know, how many Rust developers do we have? So there's at least 3 of us that can code in Rust. Now, keep in mind, this question was also asked, like if you go in the Solana chat boards, very early questions come in with their Discord is, do you guys have enough Rust developers? And where that stems from is that Rust is not yet considered a popular language, but it is growing faster than most of the others. So most modern blockchains today, if they care about security, are going to be coded in Rust. Maybe a second up runner would be Golang, but I think most people agree that Rust is the better language there. And how Solana developers answer that question is, all of them. There's actually a whole chat on it, and they all say, look, Solana was not my first language. They learned because it's a better language, and what developers have to do is they have to keep up to date with the best languages and learn them. Rust is a language worth learning. It's highly scalable, highly secure, very, very powerful. And if you want to do anything involving a blockchain, involving enterprise, if you know Golang, that's good. I feel that if you know Rust, that's better. And a lot of people feel that way. Now, having said that, we are always looking for more developers. So if I got one thing out of this AMA and it was another developer that was interested, that wanted to move forward with this, that's a very successful AMA. So really, we're always looking for developers. If you guys are developers and you want to get involved, if you know of people who want to get involved, especially for development, but any kind of involvement at all, of course, we want more. The idea is to grow, right? Some of us are going to learn Rust. Some of us are going to have to get better at Rust. And of course, we're going to have to bring on people who want to learn Rust or are good at Rust. Okay. Bluebird, will the Solana Genesis block start with the transfer of the safe coins so there is no pre-mine? So it will start with basically the problem with actually transferring these coins is that basically we're currently Bitcoin based. We're based on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin uses ECDSA encryption for its addresses. In the modern encryption world, this is no longer considered secure. Is Bitcoin an immediate risk? No, it's not. But a lot of modern blockchains no longer use this method of encryption. Solana is one of them. We cannot actually transfer all the coins over. What we have to do is give people the choice to actually swap their coin over. So you take your coin, and the most common way is we'll provide an exchange. So these will be hosted on SafeTrade, and you can go on SafeTrade, deposit your coin, trade it for the new safe coin, and then withdraw it. And of course, it'll be a one-to-one value. Everything will be one-to-one value. We're going to have additional tools as well where you can do this. But admittedly, they will probably require a third party because these addresses are not compatible. Another question Bluebird had in there was a pre-mine. Now we do have a small pre-mine in Safecoin. It's in our, it's in our white paper, in our documents and whatnot. And absolutely, that's going to carry over. Now, it's not nearly the extent of what you see in the top 100. So if you look in the top 100 blockchains right now, you see, you've got your ripples, which are extreme cases, but almost every blockchain in there has, pre-mines these days. Ethereum, even Bitcoin had a pre-mine. In the top 100 coins that don't have pre-mines, maybe Doge. I think that's it. But in our case, we're actually going to be providing sort of a fair launch alternative. Solana is a fantastic project, but they were also heavily funded, which is a good thing in some cases, but we're looking for something for the decentralized community. We want something which is fair launch, which was mostly produced by proof of work miners and is highly distributed and decentralized. And so we're going to be able to offer that distribution on a code base that's based off Solana. Now we're going to make our own improvements, but one of the advantages of ours is that ours will not be a security. Solana is a security just simply because they raised funds. They were an IEO. We're not, and we're going to maintain that status. So when we move over, we will be the first decentralized non-security implementation of their code. Okay. Crypto Chronic, what are the advantages over Ethereum? So that's a big question. I'm going to get right to it. Over the existing Ethereum, a ton. Okay. The existing Ethereum is super slow, maybe 15 transactions per second. We're going to move to something that's closer to 100,000 transactions per second. Now, of course, it depends on a whole bunch of things, including settings and hardware, so we'll probably have to do some benchmarking. But we're going to be around 100,000 TPS, maybe 50, somewhere in that range. There's really no comparison in terms of the ability to do tokens. We'd be completely ERC20 compatible. They have an Ethereum bridge, so anything we do is going to be compatible with Ethereum, but also be able to move back and forth between our blockchain and Ethereum. So tokens will be able to freely move back and forth, which is going to become very handy for some of our roadmap items. Now, in addition to that, we also have to look at the language of the smart contracts, the virtual machines. They have Solidity. Ours has Solidity, and then it also has WASM, which basically allows you to write smart contracts in almost any popular language. Now, they're going to obviously we are moving to a Rust-based code, so our smart contracts, we're probably going to try and develop a lot of our smart contracts in Rust. It's just faster, it's more secure, it's better. But we have the Solidity, we have a whole bunch of other languages, and we're extremely fast. Like we can handle them far better than Ethereum can. And then, of course, there's finality. Ethereum has, if I remember correctly, a 5-minute finality. Ours will be under 1 second. Now, keep in mind that most blockchains are not really adhering to a very good standard when they say finality. So, depending on what you mean, our finality can be anywhere between 1 and 12 seconds, depending on your definition. Now, even 12 seconds makes it probably the fastest blockchain in the world if you're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges. The bottom line is that we can do things at speeds which even the most advanced blockchains in the world just can't. So Ethereum 2.0, I'm going to answer that question too. How does Solana compare with Ethereum 2.0? Because that's really what we should be comparing it to. First of all, finality, again, Solana beats it on finality by a lot. The better question will Solana have the best finality of any blockchain in the future? And I'm going to say yes. And the number one reason for that is because of how, and sorry, yeah, I'm just going to go a little bit more broad because I won't be able to compare every single coin. So yeah, I'll have to broaden it just a touch. It comes down to just much better engineering, better science. So basically, in consensus with decentralized currencies, the big question is which transaction happened first, right? So this comes down to double spending. This comes down to all of these problems where you see exchanges get double spent, coins get double spent, and money's lost. What's happening there is for a few moments, a blockchain doesn't know which transaction happened first. Usually that's a result of their method of block consensus failing. But the fundamental issue is they don't know. Decentralized applications are not good at knowing what thing happened first. So almost every blockchain out there has gone to great lengths to find solutions to this. All of them are convoluted because all of them start with the assumption, let's assume that there's no way to know which thing happened first. Every blockchain starts with that assumption. Then some develop proof of work. So you have Bitcoin, where you have thousands and millions of ASICs mining it, and from those minings, you get a better sense of finality because the majority of hash power can say, we believe this is the reality. We still don't know what the reality is. Like Bitcoin doesn't do any advancements in determining what reality is. It just says, well, I'm going to pick a reality every 10 minutes. One node's going to pick a reality and we're all going to agree with that node. So basically what Bitcoin is it's a different centralized server every 10 minutes. So it's just sort of like that first step of decentralization. It's saying, okay, we don't know how to be decentralized yet, but what we'll do is we'll be centralized with a different computer every 10 minutes. Then you've got other blockchains which have proof of stake, and basically they're basically saying, well, we're just going to do the same thing, the same computer every minute or every 10 minutes, but we'll pick that computer based on number of coins or randomness or whatever. All of them get around the fundamental question of not knowing what happened first by picking who will decide. What Solana did, they are the first decentralized application. I shouldn't say this because their stuff is actually based off very well studied methodologies, but they're the first blockchain to look at that question and say, maybe we can figure out what happened first. And so they built a whole consensus called proof of history around figuring out which transaction happened first. And they actually, instead of spending all their resources tracking every transaction and deciding and arguing about which transaction is what, it focuses on what time is it. It wants every node to know what time is it and agree on what time it is. Now, if you can do that, it doesn't matter how many transactions you have, they're all going to be final. You basically solved the decentralization problem. So that's what they've done. And we're very impressed with that. So because of that, and because they're the only blockchain in the world that's done that, they beat every single blockchain on finality. If you want a safe transaction to go through and know that it will go through and know that the blockchain will actually understand, all the nodes will agree on it, Solana is the only one that does that. So for instance, Safecoin does notarization, which eventually goes back to Bitcoin. So Safecoin and Komodo notarize Bitcoin. Basically, Bitcoin has 1 hour finality. Bitcoin is 100% sure after 1 hour. Yes, it's true. Most people trust it after one confirmation. So it depends on your definition. But we are double spend proof to the effect of how good Bitcoin is at being double spend proof. So say every hour we're double spend proof. Solana is double spend proof in under a second. So that's the difference there. Okay, so Ethereum 2.0 has 5-minute finality. Now I've just explained how we have less than 1 second finality. And the reason we beat Ethereum 2.0, the reason we beat all of them is because we're the only ones that actually figure out the time problem. If you understand the time problem, then you basically have the same advantages of a centralized system without being a centralized system. Now, another thing that Ethereum 2.0 will have is sharding. So what this does is it basically says because Ethereum can only do 15 transactions per second. So, but with sharding, what they'll do is they'll create a few more chains, and each of those will each do some more transactions. So say you have one slow chain and you want to speed things up, you add 3 more slow chains, and now you're 3 times faster. That's kind of the theory behind Ethereum 2.0. It's not very good. The reason they're going that way is because they're too far in now. They're too far in. And so this is the only way they can do it. Other chain, you add a thread on your processor. Because the funny thing about crypto is basically all of crypto right now is single threaded. Now for proof of work mining is an exception, but for actual transactions, all of crypto is basically single threaded. So, and actually single threaded coins try to argue that they are more pure because they're single threaded, but this is complete bullshit. Can you imagine if you were playing a video game and it was really, really slow, and you call the manufacturer, you're like, my video game's slow, and they're like, oh yeah, all our video games are single threaded, and you're like, oh, I'm like, well, how do I get it to speed up? And they're like, oh, well, we're not going to multi-thread. What we'll do is we'll in our next release we'll have 2 video games, and you can play 2 slow video games at once. That's what blockchain's doing right now for scale. And it's not okay. They've not addressed the real problem. So any modern software these days is multi-threaded. That wants to accomplish something is multi-threaded. It's completely scalable. You just add more threads. And Solana's the first to do that. Solana's multi-threaded. So that means we can scale to pretty much whatever speed we want simply by adding more threads. We don't have to add more blockchains. We just add more threads. And we can achieve speeds that the others can't, no matter how many chains they add. So yeah, I think it's vastly superior in terms of smart contracts, in terms of TPS, and in terms of finality. Okay, I've answered that question, and I hope I've probably answered a whole bunch of other questions about comparing other blockchains, but I'm willing to take more questions about other blockchains if you guys want. Um, do, 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 do. What would the main advantages over Sol? So Crypto Chronic asks, what would be the main advantages over Sol? There's a lot. Now we like Solana, so this video is definitely not going to be about bashing Solana. Solana is a pretty amazing blockchain. We want to work with them. They've got grants. They've got great developers. They get great people. They've got the best code. So we're not going to be into bashing Solana at all. We want to be right there with them. But let's just say that we're the community edition of Solana. So say you want to run a smart contract, but your lawyers tell you you can't run it on a security, you can't run it on an IEO. We're your solution. Okay, so a lot of companies can't run on IEOs, they can't run on securities, they can't run on blockchains that potentially have Ripple-like risk. We don't have that risk, so we're that solution. Now, a couple other things about Solana. Solana actually runs at 600 transactions per second all the time since they turned it on, which is amazing. So Solana is like 50 Bitcoin networks right now. And that's literally that's 600 transactions per second. That's literally, now they do have a really nice DEX that runs on top of them, and we'll talk about that. But for the most part, that 600 TPS, that's just what it takes to run Solana. That's their baseline. Now, if you want to run a Solana node, you need a computer with 2 terabytes for starters. You need 2 terabytes. You need a whole bunch of RAM. You need a very, very, very high-end processor. And when you get your high-end processor, then they're going to suggest to you that you attach a GPU to that high-end processor. Because again, we're in multi-threading world now, right? So we can just add as many threads as we want. So as they achieve higher TPS, you know, when they run out of threads on the processor for the computer, no problems. Everybody throws on a GPU. Done. So, which is great, except it is really hard to run a Solana node. It was super hard to run one. There's a bit of a centralization problem there just because of accessibility of trying to run a node. Our community edition is not going to run at 600 TPS. It is going to run at a pretty high TPS. It's going to run at around 15 to 20 TPS. Okay. So essentially our community edition, when we launch it, it will start off running with the same network requirements that Bitcoin has. It's going to have a TPS very similar to Bitcoin, which is way more than we're used to, right? But it's better than having one that's running at 50 Bitcoin networks. That's hard, right? That's a hard access point. So our community edition will be able to achieve the same speeds, the same finality, the same security, but we're making some adjustments so that the TPS will actually be around 15 instead of 600, which means that you can run this thing on a normal computer. So that's another huge advantage. Obviously, legal advantages because we are a decentralized store of value. There's other advantages, improvements we want to make. So about the proof of history, I actually think we can get our finality faster. But that's not because Solana did anything wrong. It's just they're being very, very, very conservative. I've looked at it, and they can actually optimize their speeds in terms of finality even more. And they just don't have to really. We kind of do because we want to develop decentralized exchange. There's a hint for questions. So we are looking at very, very fast finality. We are going to actually optimize some of the features on Solana to achieve that. So those are some of our early advantages, and they're pretty big ones to make. Basically, It's a decentralized, accessible community edition of Solana is what we're going to start off with, and then we're just going to continue to focus on security and our other mandates, which is going to be a lot easier to do on this code. Okay, I'm gonna if it has Solidity, does it also have Viper? Considering they compile to the same bytecode. So they're actually running. So they use something called Solang, and when I say it's actually not completed yet, but it's only days or weeks away from being completed. You can actually run it now. You assume some risks, but they run on something called Solang. It's not the same bytecode. It's a different implementation on top of WASM, and I'll tell you right now, it's way better. Now it is a little bit. I will admit that their implementation of Solidity and all their smart contracts actually are, they have a little bit of work to do in terms of the framework, giving people a nice framework so that they can just freely code without thinking. But you can write fantastic smart contracts on them right now, and that's already being done. So there's a bit of work to do on the frameworks. The actual bytecode, yeah, they're using a different implementation of all the thousands of functions that Solidity has. They've literally emulated all of them except one. So that's good, and they've got ways around that. And it's not an important function that people use. So yeah, look up Solang. That's what they're going with. But also keep in mind that a lot of people are moving away from Solidity altogether. They're moving more to WASM and other kinds of smart contracts, and Solana excels there. Solana really excels there. Ryan, I'll just mention, you know who uses a completely compatible? Absolutely, Ryan. Yes, it's all on top of WASM, so you can use any language, create any new language. Absolutely. Now, if you look at, there's another competitor. I'm just going to name names. For instance, there's a coin called Avalanche. We considered Avalanche, and I won't bash them too much, but I'll bash them a little bit. There's some issues with Avalanche, and I won't get too much into it unless you guys make me. But they also have a lot of really impressive things, but they actually have a mirrored Solidity. So they have like a Solidity which is literally the same code, same bytecode as Ethereum. And they created a super fast blockchain, but they hooked it up to Ethereum Solidity. Guess what happens when you run Ethereum's Solidity on a fast blockchain? It's not fast anymore. So Solidity is just old technology. People like it because they know it, but they managed to get up to 4,000 TPS, which is nothing compared to Solana, but it's still impressive. 4,000 TPS is still impressive. When they hooked up Solidity to it, they dropped down to 300 TPS. So Solana just made a lot, and so here's Solana just made better decisions to start off with. They're using faster smart contracts. They're using faster, more up-to-date smart contracts that the real world will use in the future. Number one, that's why there's no difference between Solana's TPS on blockchain transactions or smart contracts. They're both crazy fast. Now, but there's a second thing where, again, it comes back to the multi-threading. So say you wanted to do a absolute Solidity, and I'm sorry if I'm geeking out too much, guys. I'm going to come back to reality in a second here. I just want to answer Ryan's question. But if you wanted to use a true Solidity VM, like port Ethereum's Solidity VM into Solana, it would still run super fast, even though it's old code, even though it's not optimized code and probably not part of the future. It would still run fast because Solana has multi-threading. So you keep coming back to that multi-threading. It just opens up so many doors, and it makes you wonder why any blockchain was ever written without multi-threading. Um, okay, sorry, I'll go back to these questions here. Um, Game forbid. Will we be able to cold stake with the wallet offline via proxy or staking key? I'll give you the short answer. So we're going to get into more details on that later, but the short answer is yes, you can cold stake. Solana essentially has cold staking. What they call it is delegation. So if you look up Solana staking delegation, yes, we have that feature out of the box, and we will implement a very similar feature on Safecoin. We're going to make some tweaks to it. It's going to be a little different. But yeah, it's going to be like that, and you'll be able to do the cold staking. I will mention the difference because I was asked earlier what are advantages over Solana, and I did actually leave one huge advantage out, which I really come to think I should mention it, even though Solana has a little bit of weirdness because they are an IEO. They actually, if you want to run a validator on Solana, you have to do KYC. You have to do KYC, and you also have to be not in the US. Obviously, we're stripping all that out in our version. So in the community edition, there's no KYC. No KYC, just to clear, there's none of that. And you can be from any country, including the US, and run these nodes and stake. Okay, next question. Oh, we didn't miss. Are there any other advantages of why a developer would choose safe assets or safe chains as an option for institutional grade builds versus ETH or another popular chain? Yeah, huge advantages. So first of all, the go-to every company right now. Now this will change in the future, I think. But right now, every company starts off by saying, well, "Why would we choose something other than Ethereum?" Right? That's the first question they ask. First off, you don't have to choose. We have an Ethereum bridge. And so a lot of projects talk about eventually getting an Ethereum bridge. Ethereum bridges are hard to make, especially good ones. We happen to have one already built. Okay. So Solana Codebase already has an Ethereum bridge. And not only do they have an Ethereum bridge, but it's a very, very well written one. And that's impressive because that's writing integrations like that can be a little bit hard to do in Rust. You would think that a Golang platform would beat them at that. But no, Solana has one of the best Ethereum bridges there are. It's perfectly seamless. So companies don't have to choose. You can go back and forth between Ethereum and Solana with your tokens and with your smart contracts, and it's all going to work. So there's no point to choose. But what you're going to find if you try us is that instead of having to mortgage your house to pay gas fees, you're going to find that transactions are basically feeless. The fees are so small you won't even see them. So we solve the transaction fee problem. We solve the speed problem. If you want to do smart contracts on Ethereum, you got to be prepared to wait. You want to go on Uniswap, do some trades, pull your coins out. First of all, you're going to pay high fees. Second of all, you're going to wait. When we release ours, and yeah, feel free to ask Dex questions, guys. None of that. No waiting, no high fees. It's just fast. It works. Okay. So there's a whole bunch of other advantages we have as well. But I think those are my 3 points is number 1, you don't have to choose. Number 2, we're cheaper. Number 3, we're faster. We're also more powerful, but that's a longer conversation. Okay. Oh, crypto gamer. Yeah, and you mentioned the KYC, and the KYC. So we're stripping all the KYC out clearly. Yes, it's one of the advantages of not being an IEO. Crypto Chronic. There it is. There it is. What will be the improvements of safe DEX over Uniswap? So there you've mentioned the DEX. I've kind of covered the top improvements are. First of all, we'll be completely compatible, right? Like you can use your MetaMask and stuff on ours and it'll work. First of all, we have a better name. Ours is to be called SafeSwap. So we've already established that we're going to release a SafeSwap. We're going to release it in Q1 of 2021. Some of my team members told me not to say that. I thought long and hard about it. They're probably right, but I think timelines are important. We're going to release this DEX in Q1 of 2021. So before April, our goal now I don't necessarily want to be shot if this doesn't happen because this is a very aggressive timeline. But our plan is to have SafeSwap running on top of the new Safecoin blockchain before April 1st. And it will be considerably faster than Uniswap, considerably more scalable. But the things you'll notice the most, first of all, we'll have all the same coins because it's going to be completely compatible with Uniswap. We can bring the ERC20s right over. And then we've got our own tokens too. But it's just going to be instant, right? You go make a trade, and that trade will settle just like it does on a centralized exchange. So if you pull up Binance and you pull up SafeSwap, and you compare trading on both, very similar experiences, except that Binance can shut down and ours can't. So now in terms of security also, of course, you get all the advantages of having non-custodial wallets and things like that. So all the advantages of Uniswap without the pain, without the fees, without the issues with lag. No lag. Lag's done. Cryptochronic, awesome. I agree. That is awesome. Cryptochronic, does it have orders, stop orders, OCO orders? That's hard to answer at this point. We are going to follow very much, and we're going to be able to do the liquidity protocol that Uniswap has. We're probably going to add some other features in. One of the things it does, obviously, is it prevents people from jumping ahead of your orders because it's happening in real time, and also everything's time-stamped, right? So it knows what time it is. So for people to jump ahead of your order is impossible because it knows that your order was first, and also it happens in real time. So even if they could trick the system, which they can't, your order would already be processed before they even tried. So that's nice. In terms of whether it'll have orders, stop orders, and OCO orders, I can't confirm that yet. We're gonna have to really look at our implementation and do some testing, and that's still to be ironed out. There is a current DEX out there which we're going to use as our base. So originally, in the original implementation of Safecoin, we were going to use barter DEX. That's obviously not happening now. Our code base now is going to be based off of a project called Serum. So Serum is a Uniswap competitor, which runs on top of Solana. So we will be using that code base to start off with, and then running it out further. So again, this would be the first community edition of all of these features. Yes, that is fast. I was told not to say that, but that's the goal, and I'm going to stick with it. That's the goal. Will there be a front-end app for the DEX? Yes, there will, definitely. Yeah. And a lot of that has already been written. We're just going to improve on it. And that is actually, Ryan, you bring up a good point. So, I mean, that's what's going to be one of our goals with Serum is to really improve the front-end app. Serum's a fantastic project, but yeah, that's one area, and rightfully so. They focused on the right things, but their UI does need some work. So we're going to contribute in that area and also contribute back to them on that. Will the old Safecoin chain be running after the swap? Probably. So obviously our focus will be on the new chain. But I mean, the great thing about blockchains is they can't be, nobody can stop them. We're not gonna turn the chain off. Now what happens to it after? We're gonna have the 60-day swap, right? So starting on this is tentative. This is very aggressive. We're saying tentative February 7th. which means April 7th, the 60 days will be up. And at that point, the new Safecoin will be considered this new code base, period. At that point, we're not going to shut the old Safecoin off. Our focus will be on this new chain, though. Doo-doo-doo. Okay. Have I caught up with your questions? I'll give you guys a second. I got lots more to say, but I'll let you guys think if you have questions. Okay, the emissions questions. Yeah, so emissions will be identical. We're not changing emissions at all. The same emissions you see now will exist on the new Solana code base. One technical exception, obviously, when you change your block times, emissions have to be converted. So they'll be converted but not changed, right? So there'll be 150 times more blocks, right? Because we're going from 1 minute to 400 milliseconds. There'll be 150 times more blocks and 150 times less rewards on each block, which equivals basically within a minute, the same amount. You're still going to get 3 Safecoin within a minute on the new chain or the old chain. So yeah, they'll be completely compatible. No fundamental changes to emissions. Ooh, the safe cash question. Yes. So as you guys notice, we have held off on safe cash, and that is because we knew 5 months ago that something was likely happening. So our attention quickly turned. We didn't know it was going to be Solana 5 months ago. It took us a while, a lot of research to get here, but we were researching, right? And so safe cash was delayed because there's really no point in building safe cash off of the old chain. As soon as we implement this new chain, safe cash is going to be one of the top priorities. It's very, very important to have safe cash as part of SafeSwap. They can just go hand in hand, right? You need those stable coins to succeed with a really, really good DEX. And this DEX is going to be the most amazing DEX that's ever been put out, especially by a community. And I can definitively say that, there's no DEX put out by a community which compares to it. And yeah, it needs stable coins. So Safe Cash is definitely going to be coming out with SafeSwap. You just need it nowadays. Oscar, when will the app be ready again? Ha ha. The goal is Q1. I'll say it one last time. The goal is Q1 2021. And we do try to meet our goals. I mean, sometimes we've been pretty good over the last 3 years. We generally do meet our goals, not on everything. One of the only things we didn't meet was actually building a DEX. And it's because as we started to look at the DEX, we realized we needed a new blockchain to do it properly, which has brought us here. But most of our items we have been on time with. We've put out, or even if we were late, we at least got it done. An example is a personal goal of our community was for Safe Trade to be Solana compatible prior to this meeting. And if you look in Safe Trade's wallet right now, there is a Solana wallet in there. That's an incredibly complex integration, only done by a very small handful of exchanges. Binance being one of them. Most of them are highly funded exchanges. So yeah, there's a very, very complex integration. And if you look in Safe Trade's wallet now, Safe Trade is already Solana compatible as it needs to be. So yeah, we do intend to keep our timeline. It's things do happen. This is crypto, but yeah, that's the goal. Yeah, SafeSwap's trademarked. Have I caught up with you guys again? Okay, so in terms of our roadmap, what we really see is trying to bring in. Oh, okay. I almost went freelance there, but we got a new question. Explain relationship between Safecash and I think I read that. Explain the relationship between Safecash and Safecoin. Okay, so um, on our new code base, we're going to have ERC20 compatible and bridged tokens, right? So these tokens out of the box, when you make a token on Solana or when you make a token on top of the new Safecoin, you have this really, really well working token, which works great with smart contracts and can also be transferred to and from ERC20 tokens on Ethereum. And it all runs on top of that chain. So when we put out our new chain, when Safecoin is implemented on this new chain, SafeTrade, will be using, or SafeTrade and SafeSwap will both be using ERC20 compatible tokens that run on top of Safecoin. So Safecash will be stable coins such as the euro, the US dollar, etc. Other forms of traditional fiat will be stable coins which actually run on top of the Safecoin blockchain. And it's literally the perfect blockchain to do this. In fact, Solana already has a number of large stablecoins have started to move implementations over to Solana because they need these features. USDC is one of them. So yeah, you'll see if you guys look up Solana, Solana stablecoins, you're going to see some really big names pop up there of big names which have migrated over to Solana because they need these features just like we do. Ryan, I don't know. It's too soon to say for the Australian didgeridoo. Um, okay, keep firing questions, guys. In the meantime, yeah. So for our roadmap for 2021, first of all, obviously, we want to complete anything that hasn't been done so far. So we've been out for 3 years. We've completed most of our roadmap. We want to complete anything that's not been done, and the two big ones are really um, a DEX. Now, originally we were going to do fair exchange. Due to the nature of how technology's changed, we're now calling that SafeSwap. So SafeSwap will take the place of fair exchange on the roadmap for Q1 of 2021. Safecash as well, Q1 of 2021. Now, also other things we've done in the past, for instance, safe nodes, we're going to find likewise comparisons. So a lot of these accomplishments we've already had will be ported over into the new chain. There will be safe nodes, for instance. Oh, I got more questions. I'll go back to the roadmap later. Safe chat. Okay, so actually, yeah, you guys are right on line with what I was going to talk about. Safe chat will be a big part of this. So here's the thing with Safe chat. Safe chat needs a smart contract real bad. It needs a fast smart contract. One of the big problems with running decentralized video relay is that you have to find a way to route this stuff. It needs to be routed quickly, and it needs to have low latency. So having a real-time smart contract is a really good way to get some of this stuff done. Not all of it. You still need to solve some latency issues. We're going to work on those. But in order to do what we want to do with Safe Chat, we need a blockchain like this. So what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to, now obviously we're going to also create as a roadmap item. I think every blockchain needs to have some identity systems. So basically not KYC, but some authentication systems, right? Some way of saying, this is me. I've authenticated whatever. So you'll be able to, that's going to be, safe authorization is going to be a roadmap item in 2021. I think it's very important to have an identity authorization system. Now that will integrate with safe chat. So it's going to be a combination of that, smart contracts, and safe chat. So you'd be able to do a live stream like this, for instance, and have all the features we have now using the Safecoin blockchain as the router for it. So I think it's just a perfect fit in terms of speed, in terms of performance, in terms of the power of the smart contracts to just really develop that out. Okay. Basically need a supercomputer to run a Solana node. We're going to aim on launch. We're going to try to make, so you're asking what are the hardware requirements? We're going to try to make the hardware requirements compatible with the existing safe nodes. So if you look up our specs for existing safe nodes, we're going to try to match those. I can't promise yet because obviously until they actually get released, there's always unforeseen circumstances. But that's the goal, is to make them compatible. So get all the performance of Solana, but still have those reasonable requirements. Now, of course, you do also have the option of delegating. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be pretty slick. Now, I will defend Solana a little bit here. Now, some of the Solana's competitors will say things like, well, Solana is decentralized because they use GPUs. And they do. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in this chat, but Solana, because they're doing 600 TPS, they use GPUs. We won't have to. We don't have to use those, but Solana does. I've had conversations with people both from Avalanche and from Polkadot, and they've said Solana is centralized because of these GPUs, and it's like, well, no, they're not. Like if you look at where Polkadot's run right now, or where Ethereum's run, these chains are all run in data centers. Like 99% of their nodes are running in data centers. Now, when you move to GPUs, then you get a much higher percentage of people running them from home and things like that. So really, I think you guys know. You guys are all you guys all have mining backgrounds. You know very well the GPUs are pretty decentralized. So, yeah. Now, having said that, Polkadot. At the end of the day, just so you guys know who the runner-up was Polkadot for sure. So if we didn't do Solana, we would have gone with Polkadot. And Polkadot has a lot of great things. It really does. But at the end of the day, it does all those great things a lot slower and on a single thread. And it solves the problem of scale by just making more chains, which is not great. Because when you make more chains, you also slow the blockchain down even more in other ways. Like you speed some things up and you slow other things down. So, Polkadot also has some really weird things, like they try to charge rent for blockchains. Yeah, we were there. We did that with Komodo. That was dumb. That wasn't. I hate to say that because obviously Gavin was an incredibly intelligent man, but the whole charging for blockchains thing is dumb. So I just don't see that working. Having said that, great people at the Polkadot project, great code. We're hoping that we can borrow some of their code and work with their people in the future, potentially. One roadmap item is to try to integrate some Polkadot features into our chain. They're both Rust. Doesn't mean they're super compatible, but they're both Rust. And we do think there's huge value in Polkadot as well. So if there's things we can use there, we will. If we can have better interoperability with Polkadot, we'll look at that. We'd love to have a Polkadot bridge. Absolutely would love to have a Polkadot bridge. Currently, right now, an Ethereum bridge is considered more valuable, but that could change in a year. So, yeah. Cryptochronic, will there be interoperability with chains other than ETH? Okay, you just asked a question I answered. We've got a tentative roadmap item of 2021, so it's not quite published yet. And you guys feel free to let us know what you think, but one consideration is a Polkadot bridge. If we were going to be interoperable with something other than Ethereum, it'd probably be Polkadot, I think. Definitely not Ripple. Bitcoin, we're already kind of interoperable with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's just so slow that like the best thing you can do with Bitcoin really is just wrap it up. Just wrap that up. Yeah. Software as a service pays if there's a service being provided. Yeah, I agree with you on that, Ryan. Like I just in Komodo's implementation, um, it's just too close to the heart, right? To say like this, so crypto should not be hierarchical, right? So that's the issue. Is like when one chain controls another chain, it's not great. So I mean, Komodo's already had issues where they at one point they a few of their asset chains have been accidentally shut off or chain split because Komodo made mistakes. And then there was another chain that Komodo had a fight with, and Komodo just basically shut the chain off, literally shut the chain off. So, like, that's not a good model. It's not good at Komodo either, but just the whole model of one chain controlling another chain is actually not a good model in my mind. And Komodo's really gone out of the way to demonstrate that. Bluebird, is Serum and Solana aware of the forks, and is it friendly? I have definitely talked with people in Serum and Solana. Some of them will be aware soon, so I'll be definitely talking with some people this week. They will definitely know before we launch. So they're going to know before we launch, and I'm definitely going to go through the right channels there. And of course, there's going to be other things happening, like SafeTrade is listing Solana as soon as testing's done. You guys can see in your SafeTrade wallets, Solana's in there now. That's I think that's important for Solana as well, because they don't have a lot of exchanges like this with no KYC and features like that. Without a doubt, we want to work with them for sure. And I think that'll be fine. I know there's some hesitance there, like how will that work, especially after Komodo, but I really, really think we can work with them and contribute back to their project as well. Oh, you generated your wallet. Nice. Don't do large amounts. It's actually just under testing. So if you noticed, we've not announced this. So I'm just telling you guys it's there, but we've not announced it yet. Yeah, don't throw huge sums in yet. It's only been running for a few hours, but it was a goal to have that running before this AMA. Yes, we are the first. We're going to be the first Solana fork. So we will be the only community edition of Solana. So I've covered a lot of the roadmap. We do have some other roadmap items, but I think it's okay to stop short of, we're going to be releasing our roadmap shortly. I appreciate all your feedback on that, people. And yeah, I think for now it's okay to say that, Safe Swap and Safe Cash are two sort of priority items in our 2021 roadmap, along with this swap itself. And we're going to have a lot more items as well coming up in that. But maybe I will. We've gone our hour. So first of all, I'd ask that if you guys have other questions, definitely shoot them. I'll answer them a lot shorter. But if you got other things you want to ask, definitely fire away right now. Um, and yeah, I just want to say that uh, I'm very, very thankful to everybody in our community who's come in and made this possible. Um, Safecoin can only be as good as the people who are part of its community. You guys have been amazing. It's been 3 years now. I'm very, very fortunate to know a lot of you and get to constantly meet new people who want to make security a priority in crypto. So I really believe in what we do. I believe in what we do. I think it's important. And that's why we had to make this change, is because it's that important that we are leaders in security. Crypto needs it. And yeah, please get involved. It's my number one thing. There's going to be a lot of exciting stuff to do, from contract development to stable coins to decentralized finance. The list goes on and on. The things we can do, we're just going to simply be able to do everything better than everyone else. It doesn't mean we will, but we were going to have the technology to do it. And that's where you guys come in. So you guys can really, really open up and make this thing as big as you want. So yeah, very, very thankful to have you all. Oh, and I'll just answer a couple more questions here. How can the community contribute further to the cause? Any way possible. I mean, reach out. You can reach out to me or another team member if you'd like to help out. We need everything. Like, say if you just want to be active in Discord, that's helpful, right? Like, if you just want to be a supporter and tell others about Safecoin, that's huge. Word of mouth is massive. So organic growth is really, really important. Other ways you can contribute is actually, as the new chain comes online, adoption is another one, right? So if you have a business or some other means of utilizing the chain, I'd highly encourage you to. That's very, very helpful to us, and we'd love to work with you on it. We are clearly, I feel, going to have the best platform to run any kind of decentralized services on. So I think it's worthwhile. Now, obviously, if you're a developer, please let us know. Come over now. And if you are a designer, we need lots of design, lots and lots of design. So pretty much any skills you have, we'd love to be able to help out. And there's lots of opportunities available. And yes, we do sometimes bounty as well, and sometimes we do things a little bit more elaborate with our programs. So definitely, please do get involved. I want to make you all feel welcome, and know that you're extremely valued. Yeah, so for instance, Zelcore, we're going to have 60 days, right? So from the time that we actually announce the swap and release the code, there will be a 60-day period for third-party apps to migrate over. And now one of the things we've been working on in January is we've been working on that ourselves. We've been building, or starting to at least implement, the explorers, the wallets, the integrations that we need in order to run this chain. And other third parties, of course, will need to do the same. Now, one advantage that we do have is Solana is quickly, basically the research paid off. Solana is growing in popularity at an exponential rate right now. And so even at the start of the year, nobody really supported Solana. A month later, a lot of places do. I'm kind of confident that 60 days out, Zelcore and a lot of exchanges will build compatibility with Solana, because you're going to have to in this world. Like, it's that good. You're going to have to. So yeah, that's the plan, is they're going to have 60 days to build this stuff out. And of course, if they need more time, that's fine too. When GameStop token, right? Yeah, we talked about that. We need a GameStop Doge pair. We'll look into that. um, Crypto conferences. We hope. We hope. Yep, it'd be nice. Definitely, the more community involvement we get, the more we can do in crypto conferences. I think is one of those things we can do for sure. Um, what wallet will support the new Safecoin? We're going to offer wallets which do to start out with. So we will offer to start off with a web wallet, um, which is based off something called Solid, which is a Solana product. Um, we're going to be slowly releasing other means of storing it as well. Um, One of the things Solana has is Solana is compatible with Binance's Trust Wallet. We may fork Binance's Trust Wallet. We're still debating that. I appreciate your input, but I think to start off with, we will have a web wallet. Um, and it's a pretty decent web wallet. It needs a little bit of work on the UI, but it's highly functional. Um, and we'll kind of go from there. Keep in mind also that this stuff, all these wallets are being developed as we speak. Some people are getting funded to actually develop them, and if we can be part of that, we will. But yeah, there's massive development going on in this area right now. All right. Should safe note holders swap at any particular time during the 6-day swap period? Example, early, late, doesn't matter. We of course prefer. We're going to try and incentivize people to swap over as early as possible. The sooner that swap happens, the better, right? Like as soon as we get the store of value transferred over, we can really hit the ground running because it is a bit of an awkward phase during a swap period. So we want to really get that money over as fast as possible. Um, Now, having said that, from a user perspective, it might come down to rewards. Like when are you going to get when should you swap to get the most amount of rewards? And the answer is um, as soon as we turn staking on the new coin. So very, very early on in the new implementation of the coin, we'll activate staking, and you can stake on the new safe coin. As soon as you see that, now we're hoping it works from day one, but if not, it'll be shortly after. As soon as you see that staking activated, then you're motivated to switch over, because what we're going to do actually is um, rewards on the old safe coin will start to decrease for safe nodes, and there'll be more rewards on the new coin, unless you're a mining pool. So if you're a mining pool, the rewards will stay the same forever. They're just going to follow emissions. But for actual safe node rewards, they will actually be greater on the new chain because they're going to start to get deactivated on the old one. So yeah, as soon as you see the staking, that's when to jump over. It's a web wallet, right? Yeah. It is it's a very functional wallet, so there shouldn't be too many issues. We'll explore the wallet issue with Solana for a while. I think there's going to be, that area is moving, and a lot of stuff is going more mobile and web, right? Like it really is. So um, that's something we see changing. Um, a lot of the new chains are not as Qt heavy, but we may offer a desktop Qt version as well here. We're still just looking at that in terms of whether we fork Binance's Trust Wallet or if we integrate it into existing stuff that we have. But yeah, we'll start off with the web wallet, and there'll be other ways as well. Keep in mind also that, of course, there's always, if you don't want to go on the web wallet, there's also, it'll of course be command line tools and stuff like that. And we'll just keep growing that portfolio. Correct. Yeah, it would be a transfer. Um, so Yeah, it is. It'll essentially be burned, right? So what'll end up happening is when we do the swap, all of the old Safecoin coins will be sent to a single address. And so every time you do a swap, some of those coins get sent to a single address, and then new coins are made available on the new chain. Now, on April 7th, when the swap is complete, there will be a burning on both chains. So basically, the new chain, because new coins have to be created on the new chain. Coins will be burned on the new chain so that the total supply is equal to the balance on the address on the old chain where everybody sent their coins to, right? So when you go swap your safe coin on SafeTrade, coins will be sent to a balance on the old chain, and new coins will be created for you. So now you've got your coins, you're happy. Your old coins are sent to a balance that everybody can see on the blockchain. That balance after 60 days is what will burn the new chain too. So the new chain will be the same total supply as the balance on that address. Then on the old safe coin, yes, that address will be burned. Those coins will be burned, and that'll be a permanent change. So that's our current plan, and we're going to be putting out more documentation on it as we go. And of course, we welcome your input on all of that as well. Good question. We just got a last one there. What is the vision of the new coin? Maybe I'll stop there because we're way over. So I'll stop on that question. But you guys feel free to jump in our Discord, chat more. This is just remember, guys. This is the start of the conversation. It's not the end of the conversation. What is the vision with the new coin? And here's my answer to that. It's the same vision. It's the same vision. We want to be the most secure, safe, private blockchain in the world. And we want it to be available to everybody. It needs to be decentralized. It needs to be distributed well. And that's what we want. So really, it's not the vision that changed. It's that the original blockchain that we had no longer was able to meet that vision. So when we forked Komodo in 2018, we were able to say that we were the most secure blockchain tech in the world at that time. And we could, there's some arguments around it, but we were comfortable saying that. 2021 rolls around, we're no longer comfortable saying that. But when we move to this new chain, we will be able to say that again. We will be now, of course, it's no longer good enough to just be a blockchain, right? Like there's things that matter now. There's things that matter like dApps, like DeFi. You need to be leaders in DeFi, and you need to do it more securely, right? Like people need a safe platform for DeFi. So really, our vision is the same. It does include DeFi and dApps now, but I mean, it always did, right? Like we always had a decentralized exchange on a roadmap. But yeah, this will allow us to complete that vision. Okay. I'll answer your question, right? I said it was the last question, but that's a really good question. ZK snarks. He heard the word privacy. ZK snarks. So here's the thing about privacy coins. They're very slow. And regulators are going after them right now. Banks are going after them, for obvious reasons, not a surprise. But the biggest enemy of privacy coins is their performance. They're super slow. They don't run super well. It's an issue. They just don't. And right. So, and some of them have tried going full privacy with ZK snarks, and it's ugly. It's quite honestly, it's ugly. There's going to be new things happening in privacy. Um, basically, the whole crypto industry is kind of moving to smart contracts. Um, and even Bitcoin knows this. Bitcoin just recently did an upgrade, Taproot. Regulators didn't seem to notice. Taproot has one goal: private smart contracts in the future. So they're not implementing it now, but Bitcoin's upgrade to Taproot, that was all about private smart contracts for the future, because that is the future. Can you do that in Solana? Yes, you can. Absolutely. In fact, smart contracts, ZK smart contracts have already been written. So if you go on the Ethereum blockchain and you do some digging, you look up, GitHub and look up some code, you find that you can actually run a ZK Snark privacy contract on Ethereum right now. The problem is that it is also super slow, very, very slow. Moving to this new code base, we're multi-threaded. If you run now, I know a privacy smart contract is a new concept, privacy tokens, all this stuff. If you run that on our chain, it will actually be nice to use, because we have the ability to run it at top speed. So yes, there's more development to do, but privacy is still in our mandate. It's just going to be different, and it will just work so much better that I don't know how to say it nicely. People, when some of this stuff comes out, people will stop wasting their time with those other blockchains that do this poorly. To do this properly, you need multi-threading. If you want to have privacy, you need multi-threading. So we're really the only platform to do this well on. And yes, there is more work to do, but there is code out there now. You could theoretically go run it right now. Yes. Okay, actually, that's kind of a nice place to stop. Well, guys, thank you. Like, I would say longer, but I don't want to keep you forever. I really appreciate your time, and I'm super excited about this, and I cannot thank you guys enough. I know a lot of you, some of you I don't, and I'd like to, but yeah, it's it's something I love about being in crypto, is just meeting all these really, really bright people, and I've had just fantastic questions in here. So I'd really like to get going with this and make this happen with all of you guys, and hopefully, maybe we'll have a 2021 meetup or something, and I'll get to meet some of you. But yeah, spread the word, let people know. We're not going to do any announcements quite yet, but having said that, this is knowledge now, right? We've done our AMA, and translations of this are going to come out. So yeah, feel free to tell others, get involved, message us. Let's do it. Okay, well, thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it. And I will end this now, but this is just the start of what we're going to do. So again, thank you very much. Stay safe.